Backyard Woodshop.
Hi, welcome back to the Backyard Woodshop. I'm Tom Ryder. Today we're going to be making one of these. A wooden case to hold whatever object you want to keep safe inside. Just so happens for me, this here is one of my fly rods. So your dimensions and everything might change for whatever you're building, but this is just more of a guide of how to build one of these and get it the correct procedures to get it put together. If you want to know how I did it, stick around and I'll show you how. To get started on a project like this, sometimes I like to build a prototype, and that's what this is. This is a nice little case. It's going to function fine for this fly rod and reel. This is an older one that I have that I use occasionally, but it keeps this one protected now. So that way this prototype case gets some use. It's just butt joints, screws, and glue. You're just kind of putting it together and working through the processes of how you want it. And then it gives you a finished product you can hold in your hand and decide if this feels right or if you want to make changes. And this one works well, but I think I will make a few changes with depth and stuff. But sometimes building a prototype really helps you work everything out. Yeah, you can use design software and things like that, but actually holding it in your hand and making sure that the balance and everything like that is right really helps out. Real quick, I went off camera and I just kind of roughly cut down some poplar boards. It's what I need. The final dimension is going to be about 34 inches long by about 8 inches wide, but these are a little bit wider than that just for now. You're going to basically just be building a box, a complete box, and then you're just going to split it on the table saw. It's a really easy project to do with making a case like this because it's fairly simple. But I'm going to use a 45-degree lock miter joint for my joinery on this one. You could use dovetails, box joints, pocket hole screws. I've got a 45-degree lock miter bit in my router. I've got everything set up for it. Basically, you're going to bury that bit into a sacrificial fence. That way you get a really nice clean cut, and two of your pieces, your ends, are going to go standing up like this and go through the machine, and then the other corresponding pieces will lay flat and go through the machine. That way you can do everything with one bit. And if you have it set up correctly, you just slip them in there like this, and then they stay put just like that. And now you've got a lot of glue surface and you don't need any fasteners. You've got all your lock miters cut. Now you're just going to want to glue it together. One of the great things about the newfangled workbench, I've got two long bar clamps right here, 8 foot long, but bench dogs would work as well. It's just an extra set of clamps, and then you've got a fairly flat surface to reference off of. So now I'm just going to take my glue, get it on my brush, and just start getting this glued, and then we just clamp it together. Once we've got all our glue applied, we're just going to want to join the lock miters together. Just like so, and it'll almost square itself, which is kind of nice. To get all that, don't have to fuss with it too much. Want to make sure everything's flush and even. Stick another one on this side if you're like me and just kind of weird. But really, you don't really need these end ones. I'm just being overly cautious. And that is it. So now I just have to wait for the glue to dry, and then I can move on to my next steps. So we've got our box all glued up. We don't have the bottom and the top on yet. That's going to come here in a little bit, but I'm going to show you a step that makes it really easy to fit like foam inside of a box or anything like that. Before you put a top or a bottom on, or you don't even have to measure, you've got your inside pattern right here. You just set the box itself on here. Pick your size and draw it with a marker wherever you want to cut. And that should give you a really nice finished piece that'll fit inside of there just right. And then after that, once you get that cut, make sure it fits. Now then you can cut for your top and your bottom. Once you've marked out for your foam, you make it nice and tight. As you can see, I got a nice tight fit here. I just did that off camera because most people aren't going to be able to get this kind of foam that I have, because I just got it out of the garbage. It works really well, cuts well with a knife, does great with a router bit. So, you know, a Kaizen foam would be a great choice, or you could just cut out wood and use that. So now I've got the Incra router table set up to do a round over operation. I'm just going to put a little 1/4 inch round over on all the corners, just to keep them from getting banged up, because that real fine point is just going to get all chipped up over the course of time. I've got a rabbeting bit in my big router table here. And how I set the depth was, I just took some of the scrap material that I'm going to be using here and just use it like a feeler gauge, and just set it just a slight bit over. That way I get a little bit of sanding room. But that's a quick tip for you. Just use the material you're going to be insetting in if you want to get the depth just right. We've got our bit height set and everything. It's really nice having this big, large surface to do things like this with no fence in the way. What we're going to do is we're just going to take the box itself and follow it around and put in a rabbet, flip it over, and repeat that same process again. And then we can set our top and our bottom lids in. Once we've got our rabbets all cut on both sides, you're going to want to measure with a straight ruler or whatever device you like, and get your overall width, which for me it's 7 1/4 here. And then as far as your length goes, once you've got your stock ripped, you just drop it down inside, figure it out, and then what I do is I just take it like this, hold it on the end here, take a pencil, and make a mark. And now I cut that, and it should be just exactly where I need it. I'm going to take and put a radius on using my jig. This is a little 5/8 radius jig that I make. The same design is from the gentleman over at Toolify, so I've just copied his design. All you're going to do, this is a 5/8. It's just going to follow my pattern bit, and we'll do all 4 corners. first fitting of this. Let's see if it works. If it doesn't, then we'll make it work. So, looks like this end up here. It's just a little tight from right here. Roughly right here. So what you want to do is you'll make a mark, and then you'll just take a hand plane and just lightly do away with that. So that's all we're going to do real quick. I've just got a little smoothing plane. So you just want to kind of work that over a little bit. You can use sandpaper, whatever you've got. You want a snug fit, but you don't want it so tight that you can't get it in there. There we go. Just like that, and then you'll tighten up your sides because they might be bowed out a little bit. Perfect. And that's how we fit our top and our bottom. Now you can see our case is coming together. So the next step is, once you've got your pieces all cut, is to glue them in. And then when I fit them, I put a little mark, a little A and an A, so that I know which corner they go in. And then pretty much you're just working them back in. And that is it. And then I'm just putting a clamp into the middle because the wood naturally wants to bow a little bit. So clamp in the middle, and everything is all set. Once you've got your top and your bottom glued, you just want to I put clamps in each corner to make sure that you don't get any flex or anything. And if you feel anywhere, you just need to put a clamp there and make it work. So our box is out of the clamps now. Everything is glued solid. You basically are ending up with a box you can't get into, but it's nice and solid. The next step we're going to want to do is we're going to want to split this so we can get into it. So we've got our box all split. I went ahead and just trimmed it down to the final sizes that I wanted. So I went with 1 7/8 on the bottom and 1 1/4 on the top, and that'll let the two pieces of foam kind of interlock with each other. Once I get to that step, you'll see how that works. But now comes the part where you got to keep your grain match and everything, just that way you know it'll fit correctly. I'm painting it, so it really doesn't matter as far as what the grain will look like, but so once you feel like you've got it right where it's supposed to be, you just have it on your bench. And then what you're going to want to do is, to get that, you're going to put hinges on here, and you're going to get a gap. You're going to need a little bit of a gap between the top and the bottom so that the hinge can work properly. And you'll get just a little bit of just a slightest taper. That way it'll close on the front better. And I like to use 1 or 2 business cards for my shim, and then I'll just clamp those together here, and that'll hold that while I get ready to install the hinges. Once you do that, you take your cards out. You've got your hinges attached. You're all set. You can see the hinges are right there, nice and even. They work great. You can see that the box still shuts. It's got a little bit of a spring to it, but nothing that the latches I'm going to put on won't pull out. And it's just probably just a little bit of lumber twist there would be my guess. But that's not enough to concern myself with, so I'm going to move on to putting the front latches on. And you basically have to put everything together and then come back and take it all apart and paint it. So off camera, just like the hinges, I just went ahead and put the hardware on. You just pick where you want it at, whatever type of hardware you're using, and that's what you're going to use. You could do like my prototype and use magnets on the inside if that's something that you'd rather do. But yeah, once you get it there, you just latch it down and you're all set. You just barely want a little bit of tension there and you're all set. So the other thing I got to do is attach the handle here, and that's quite simply figure out where this is a homemade handle that I make. If you look at my Incra router table video, you'll see how I made these handles, and that'll be the handle that I use right there. I just have to drill a couple holes for that, attach this, and then the case portion will be complete. Got the handle attached. This thing's pretty nice. I went ahead and just set the foam inside, and check this out. I'm really happy that I got lucky or good, whatever you want to call it, and my measurements were perfect. So I've got this lip down here, and I've got the foam right there to lock inside there. Bam, done. So this will press against the rods that are going to be sitting inside this foam, and that'll keep the rods from wanting to hop out of where I've got them. So then I just take my latch it down, and that will keep everything completely secure. Pick it up, I can take it where I want it and go fishing. I think this is going to be awesome. This is my makeshift spray booth. The weather is a little rainy today, so I thought I'd do it inside. I just throw down a big piece of plastic. I've got my turntable in here that lets me get all the way around it. This way I don't get any paint on my outfeed table or my table saw. I use that fan. I've got a big fan that blows out to exhaust any of the fumes. So off camera, I just went ahead and put all the pieces back together. Got that nice yellow paint job. I really like it. This is just Rust-Oleum spray paint. High gloss. I thought that would look best, and I like yellow, so something easy to see if I were to lay it down in the grass. Now for the moment you've been waiting for, to see my fly rod all in storage. And there it is. Everything is in its place. I don't have to worry about it getting broken or anything like that now. I'm really happy how this turned out. I've got my 2 pads up here to help hold it in place in case it gets bumped or anything. I don't have to worry about the rods coming out. Close it up, latch it down. I'm ready to go fishing. So that's what I think I'm going to do. So if you got something out of this video, please hit that like button. If you're new to my channel, I'd love to have you a subscriber. If you have any questions at all, you can email me at backyardwoodshop@gmail.com. And until the next time, I see you in the backyard.